Hello, welcome to Azure Terraformer, bringing Terraform goodness to Azure every second of every day. Today is the first episode of many, hopefully, and we'll be exploring the Azure RM provider and implementing Azure best practices, but not always simultaneously. Today we're going to be setting up a basic Azure observability stack and get you off the ground and running with a basic Terraform project setup of my own personal variety. So with that, we'll just get started. I always start with a main.tf, and I always punch out a couple basic files, variables, .tf that I'll be using. And we always need a location, and I'm still getting used to not having double quotes around everything, but that's a new thing. Type equals string, and let's just go ahead and set up a default TFRs file with our location in there. We'll pick on US West today. Okay. Let's check my directory. Beautiful. So now I'm just going to run Terraform init. I haven't declared any providers, so there's nothing there. But so far, so good. The next file that I usually punch out is my versions.tf. And I would not recommend anybody memorize this, but you're going to need a provider, and you're going to need a required providers block. The provider block allows you to specify additional configuration of the provider, and is actually where authentication happens. But we are not going to put that in code because we eventually want to check this code in. So for Azure, all you do is you just punch an AZ login, and whatever your Azure CLI is logged in with is going to be what you use. So I'm going to log in here, and boom, I've logged in, and this will pick it up eventually, and now it knows what subscription I'm in and all that stuff and all that goodness. So now if I go Terraform init, we'll just see what happens, and we're picking up some of those providers that I specified. And I drink a little tea here. Now, one thing you're going to have to do whenever you're stubbing out a project is, going to watch out for your git ignore. So, check in all the yuck that happens, which it will happen. So just mosey on over to this source control tab and look at your pending changes, and then just find stuff you don't like and smash git ignore, and then we'll go through and we'll kind of update some of these to make them a little bit more generic, so we don't have to have a really nasty git ignore. So again, the pattern that I'm looking for is like anything that's got a .terraform, file name. So I'm gonna smash **, and then I'm gonna drop all that crap at the back, put a star in there, and .dstore. It's because I'm a Mac user, so that stuff's you're gonna drop that nasty dstore file everywhere, and so there you go. And so now, just with a couple of little tweaks there, my git ignore is looking pretty good, and I don't see any baddies right now, so we're gonna move on. Okay, so I've got my provider set up, and I've got my variable with my US West. Okay. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my Terraform registry website, and I'm going to browse providers, and I'm going to go to Azure. And if you've ever used Azure before, everything in Azure needs a resource group. So I'm just going to go look for my resource group resource, and I'm going to go grab that. Yes, I'm copying and pasting from the internet. That's a thing. Shocked. I know we're all shocked. And unfortunately, all the samples have the double quotes. Okay, you can use double quotes but I'm trying to break a habit. So yeah. So I'm gonna now we could name my resource group whatever we want to name it. What you might call it, whatever. I want to use my location variable, and we're good to go, right? No. I also want to use the standard abbreviation for naming conventions. So I'm going to go to this page right here, and I'm going to look up resource group. Oh, it's right in front of my face. And it's got a little RG. Okay, so basically it's saying you should prefix all of your resource groups with an RG. So I'm going to put RG, whatchamacallit. Actually, no, I'm just going to call this episode 1. And now I can go run and I can go apply this thing, and I can have a great old time. Terraform init. See what happens. Terraform plan. We're gonna have a great time. I think it's gonna be, oh, we got some more baddies that just showed up that we're gonna have to check while that Terraform plan's running. Let me just go take care of that. Gotta make sure those baddies don't get in there, man. We are not gonna check in TF state files today. It's taking forever. This Terraform plan. What's up with that? Wow, that took way too long. Okay, so I could go do this. However, the naming conventions that I've used are not very reusable, because if I clone this code someplace else, if you go clone this code and you try and run it, well, I mean, I guess you're in a different subscription. So resource group's a bad example because it isn't global unique, but if I want to go deploy multiple of these to my subscription, this isn't going to work out so great because there's already going to be a resource group with this, name. So what I recommend, for little labs that you're doing, is use this handy dandy resource called random string, right? Again, I'm copying and pasting off the internet. Don't do this. Don't try this at home, folks. And I'm gonna drop special characters. I'm gonna shorten it to maybe 6, maybe 8. I'm gonna set it to, I'm gonna say, no, I don't want to use upper characters. I want it all lowercase, okay? And we're just gonna call this main. Now I'm using the same object name as my resource group, in Terraform it's resource type, resource object name, and the name has to be unique within the context of the resource type. So I can have 2 objects named main. As long as they're different resource types, we're good. It's a good way to kind of organize like resources. So now, using string interpolation, yes, that's a fancy word that Terraform uses for substituting in stuff. There I go, typing sub. We can go substitute in the random string, 8-character random string from my resource group. And then when we run a plan again, hopefully it won't take 20 minutes. Bueller, waiting. Gonna drink some tea. Good Lord. Maybe I should change regions. I blame ARM64. This is not normally like this. I don't know what's going on. Anyways, we're going to deploy this, and the name is... Oh, did I scroll too far? I did. Yeah, I was like, that doesn't look right. All right, so now known after apply. That's because this random string hasn't been created, and bada bing, bada boom. So there we go. So let's run apply. Of course, I'm probably going to have to type in YES here. I could add the auto approve flag just to save myself some time. Yeah, I might have to edit out, how long this is taking. This is kind of ridiculous. I blame ARM64. Thank you, Apple, for your silicon. Okay, which is really weird because Apple Silicon normally runs wicked fast. But as you can see here, just generating a random string, I mean, even that's taking a long time. We're not even going, you can't even blame Azure, right? Like, we're not even going over the internet. Okay, so we've just deployed that resource group. I'm going to go to my resource groups, smash refresh, and it just popped up. Here it is, and it's empty. Okay, so we got a basic structure here. We got our versions, we got some variables, we got a parameters file, TFRs file. We've got an empty resource group that we can now start putting stuff in there, right? So the first thing that you need in your observability stack is a storage account. So I'm just going to look up storage account. And there it is. So you can use Azure Blob storage for storing logs and metrics for posterity. And this is an extremely low cost option for storing your logs and stuff. So I'm just gonna drop tags. We don't need tags. Who needs tags? Don't tag anything, people. Okay, so I've got my storage account. Now the storage account is one of the biggest pains to name because it's got to be lowercase, can't have special characters, and it's got to be like 4 characters long. It's ridiculous. It's like 29 characters or something. I know that it's sad. I know that number. It's because it's so painful, and you'll run into it. Trust me. So let's go to our little abbreviation chart and look up storage account. Storage account ST. Yeah, I knew that, but I just wanted to show you that I look it up because you're probably going to have to look this stuff up until you start, getting familiar with some of the things. So now I've got my random string in there. I'm just going to throw the EP1 in there too, even though it's step 1 now. That's weird. Never mind. Let's just call it ST. Step 1's worse. All right, and we'll just go and run apply, and we'll see that storage account get created. I really should do the auto approve. And then the next thing that we're going to go do is, and I can kind of prep this as we're waiting for the apply, is my log analytics. Let's go smash the S there. And I want a log analytics workspace. Okay, so I'm going to grab that, and we're going to start prepping this code. See, I can code while I'm waiting and fix all the double quotes while I'm waiting for the apply to happen. See, I'm, trying to maximize your time. And log analytics workspace is just log. So we're just going to smash log in there. And I'm going to use the same name because log analytics workspace, thankfully, has, the ability to have more, special characters. You can have hyphenate. I like hyphens. They make things easier to read, when you're looking at stuff in the portal, which I wouldn't advise. But yeah, it is very useful to, hyphenate things, to separate things and have a consistent naming pattern so that you can see stuff. Otherwise, it gets very painful. Okay. So let's just plunk out our little workspace here. So we're going to have our new log analytics workspace. So now storage account, log analytics workspace. These are 2 observability options for storing your logs and your metrics that come from all of your Azure resources. Storage account is going to be way cheaper. Log Log Analytics Workspace is also super cheap, but storage accounts way cheaper. Log Analytics Workspace is much more functional because you can, open up Log Analytics Workspace and start running queries and things like that. Whereas storage account, you're spelunking flat text files and, it's not fun. So, but a lot of third-party tooling, taps into, storage accounts and parses those files and, presents them in a handy-dandy way. So I wouldn't knock it, So anyway, so we're getting the Log Analytics Workspace out there. Now we're going to set up our very first, Azure Monitor diagnostic setting. So I've been talking about observability. I haven't even used the words Azure Monitor yet. Turns out Azure Monitor uses a, storage mechanism to store all the monitoring and logs. And so we just set up two. Now we have to go attach Azure Monitor to something. So let's just go into the portal, and I'm going to go look at my subscription, and I'm going to look at my activity logs. Now the activity logs are hugely useful, right? Because they track all sorts of things that are happening at the subscription level. And so any policy changes, security alerts, stuff like that, it's really, really important. And it's one of the very first things that you should do when you set up a new subscription is add a diagnostic setting to start logging this stuff somewhere. And so basically, you can manually do like this set up this diagnostic setting, and I can select my Log Analytics workspace and all that. I can select my storage account. Event Hub is another option. That's to stream the events to an Event Hub, and then the Event Hub would get picked up by another source, and then send with partner solution. Maybe Datadog or stuff like that. I haven't used that yet. Because frankly, the Log Analytics Workspace and storage account are really cheap and really, really useful. But basically, we're going to go set up a diagnostic setting right now. So if I go look at my diagnostic setting, I found my Azure Monitor diagnostic setting, and wow, this thing is a bit of a mess. So let me just grab the one resource that I actually care about, and I'm going to create a new file because this one's a little bit nasty. Monitor.tf, and we're going to call this, I'm not going to call it main, we're going to call it activity logs. I'm going to get rid of all my double quotes, trying to break that habit. I'm on a 12-step program. So now diagnostic setting, there's no prefix for this, so we should probably go update that. But diagnostic settings, I usually just go with diag, and then I grab my like a random string. In this case, I don't want to use the same random string that I named this resource group, because I kind of want to just give this a random string all by itself. So I'm going to create a new random string, and I'm going to reference that in the name. Of course, I need string interpolation, activity logs, and result. And we're not gonna, the target resource is what we're gonna be monitoring, and then the data source that we're gonna store the Azure Monitor logs is gonna go to a storage account ID, but it can also go to those other things, a Log Analytics Workspace, a Partner Solution ID, or an Event Hub ID, I would imagine. We have a storage account and a Log Analytics Workspace. Maybe in a future episode I'll show you how to use Event Hub. That might be fun. But let me get all these equal signs all scrimmage lined up here. Otherwise somebody's gonna scream about my lint. Dear God. All right, so now I need some storage accounts. So I'm going to go grab my storage account, Now, the beautiful thing, I've named all of these things main, so it's relatively easy. There's no surprise. Now, the ID is a common property in most resources within the Azure RM provider. The ID is basically going to result in a string, as you can see, that ridiculously long, wicked string that shows up in your address bar when you're in the portal, with the subscription and the GUID and the resource provider and the more GUIDs, so yeah, that's what that ID is. We don't have to look at those things. We don't have to build those things like you often see in ARM templates. It's a very good thing. It's a very good thing. Lastly, the target resource for activity logs is actually going to be our subscription. So I'm going to use this data reference to this special type that just gets me the current subscription, right? I've already, whatever I've authenticated, and told and configured the provider that's been declared here with, which I've done that using AZ login, right? This data resource is, this data reference is going to reference that. So I'm just going to go data.that.current.id, because of course even subscriptions have a long ass resource ID. It's not just the GUID. We're not talking about the GUID. If I wanted just the GUID, I would just go subscription ID, and that would be the GUID. But we don't want the GUID. We want the actual resource locator for the subscription. Yeah, that's a thing. It's not a very long thing compared to all other things, but it is a thing. So now I'm going to grab my Azure Monitor Workspace. It's also called main, and I think I want the ID. This one I always forget if it's ID or if it's Workspace ID, because that's a property on this. But I'm going to go with ID because I think it wants the resource ID, not the Workspace ID. Confusing, I know. And then now you might be asking yourself, well, we have all these like log attributes and we have these metric attributes. First of all, activity logs, we don't have metrics. Other resources out on Azure, they've got metrics. Activity logs don't, by the nature of them being activity logs and not activity metrics. Anyways, so where do we get these categories? Well, the categories I have very conveniently right on this left-hand side here. So I can just go smash these in here. Administrative retention policy, I could probably enable that and set a date if I wanted to, but I'm gonna spare you guys some time and I'm just gonna copy pasta this in here. Okay, so I've got resource health, auto scale, policy, recommendation, security, administrative. I'm really bad because I could probably extract this enabled property as like a local variable and all kinds of crazy stuff. All right, so let's run Terraform validate. It's just, okay, we're good. So now we're gonna run Terraform plan. And we're gonna see if this cooks. And we'll see what it wants to do. My confidence is high, there was a little bit of copy pasta. There was a lot of not copy pasta, but you never know. Like I could still make a mistake. Looks okay. We are going to get a new random string for our activity logs. This is our diagnostics setting, and that's it. Like everything else is already out there and having a great time. So yeah, I feel pretty good about this. So let's run apply and let's do auto approve. Is it 2 hyphens or 1? It's 1. Okay, I just forget that. All right, and so let's go snipe this little backup thing here because we don't like that, and we'll probably have to like tweak our git ignore a little bit so that we don't have nasty things like this. So what terraform.tf state, maybe if I just add a star here, that should take care of it. Then I don't need that. Yes, I think this is good. This is the way. Okay, beautiful. So now let me go back here, and we'll just kind of go out to our subscription. Let me go look at my resource group. So this is where my observability is all set up. Notice I've got that fantastic random string alpha 6 ePoo 10e ePoo alpha 6 ePoo. Nice. Yeah, and so that's all set up. Not a lot going on. I mean, you know, it's in US West and we're all good. So now my diagnostic setting is done. So let me go check out my subscription and let me go verify. Oh, good, I'm quite happy that it's only $30 I'm spending. What am I looking for? Oh yeah, activity log, here it is. Okay, so gotta go to export activity logs. And there it is. So I've got my little diag. Now notice it's got a different setting, which is nice. And you can see you can see the configuration. I got my alpha 6 ePoo and like log analytics workspace, my alpha 6 ePoo storage count. I can go in here and edit it, and I could add drift to my environment, but no, I'm not gonna do that. I can do that. And then, yeah, that's it. So as you can see, you know, we set up a basic observability stack using storage account and log analytics workspace. We set up an Azure Monitor diagnostic setting to send all of the subscriptions activity logs to those storage locations. And we set up, you know, a basic Azure RM Terraform solution that you can follow my pattern. You can name your files differently, whatever you want to do. This is how I do it. I find it, you know, consistent, and that makes me happy because consistency makes me happy. Versions.tf, slam all your providers in there. Variables.tf, slam all your input variables. You know, if you're going to use like local TFRs files, you can do that. And then always have a main. You know, the main is probably where your resource group is going to go. And if it's a really simple module, you only need a main. You know, but you can split all these into separate files if you really wanted to. But you know, that's kind of your own design decision of how you want to structure that. I like random string. One thing, always make sure that you reference a specific version of every provider, even those providers like random that you don't feel like they're important enough. You should still, you know, make sure that you're referencing a specific version of random. Otherwise, things can get hairy. Absolutely. Anyways, that's it. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time on Azure Terraformer. Thanks a lot.